fans.
Do you think the top three was BS, or do you think he actually narrowed it down to the top three?
I think it was BS.
I think he did narrow it down because he did go and meet with these teams. I think it was a due diligence play of the Dodgers were always his favorite from the jump. And just to make sure that he turned over every stone and that he checked everything out and didn't have any questions before he, signed on the dotted line with the Dodgers, he went to go to Toronto and San Diego. Just to make sure that you don't have any questions about anything. You don't have any temptation. And then if you sign with somebody without looking at other places, you're not sitting there at night being like, what if? So the what if was out of there, even though the Dodgers were the favorites the whole time.
Yeah, or he just did it to make it seem as if it was a completely
I don't think that's
fair process.
Oh, I don't think he did this with intention of being fake.
I think he knew he was going to the Dodgers the whole time.
See,
I really do.
I think he had the Dodgers as his number one the whole time.
It was just an ode to you, Darvish. He felt like he had to give the Padres a run.
I also think that, just seeing everything before you make your decision and making sure that once you've seen everything, that it reaffirms in your mind that, okay, the Dodgers were number one the whole time. This cements it.
I think he knew he was going to LA.
I do too, but I also think that he wanted to make sure that he saw everything before he made the final decision. That's how I view it. I don't think he did this as a sham. I don't think he was, jerking everybody around and wasted everybody's time. I really don't. I think that, yes, the Dodgers were always the number one for him, but I do firmly believe that this was a process that he wanted to go through to make sure that him picking the Dodgers was 100% the right choice, even though it was his favorite from the jump.
Right, which always goes back to the hill the Padres had to climb to overtake the Dodgers never existed. Wasn't going to be, well, they've developed Michael King. The hill to climb was so big that you wonder if it was even possible. All right, to the phones, 877-767-4760. Rick is on line 2. If you want to weigh in on Roki choosing the Dodgers, 877-767-4760. Rick, you're on with Jon and Jim.
2025 Padres season tickets sold out. 2025 Padres games mostly sold out. Seidler brothers care less, and they don't care what the look is. Maybe Peter Seidler would have cared, but these guys could care less. They already have everybody's money, and going forward, they have Petco Park, a great place to see baseball. So I think they could care less about the look. They're already sold out. Thank you.
Than's for the
All
call,
right, thank
Rick.
you from the bunker call.
Well, he has the point there. I don't agree with, but I do think that by them having sold out Petco this year for season tickets, they're gonna get damn near 3 million fans if they play decent. They still have superstar players on the roster. I love watching Jackson Maryland, Manny Machado, and Tatis, and Michael King pitch. Still got some really exciting players on that team. That is also maybe a little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's something that they can hide behind. Hey, you're right. Group can come out and talk on the radio and be like, we got season tickets sold out. We got this sold out. Everything sold out. We want to put a better product on the field, but when the business at the box office is good, you don't have that much pressure on you to go out and be like, at all cost, we're going to do everything possible.
I've always said that. They're a marketing machine. The San Diego Padres should be lauded for their ability to market and be relevant. They've always resonated in the post-Peter era, in the Peter Seidler era and beyond. They have resonated. They have drawn. They will continue to draw. But are they committed to winning at the highest level? Or are they committed to being the number one entertainment draw in sports in San Diego? They've done an amazing job drawing. But can they tie drawing to winning? And I don't know the answer to it. They've won, but they haven't won at the high level that we're hoping for. Again, Manny Machado is here, in my opinion, to win a World Series. Let's go back to the phone. Sarah wants to vent. That's why we're here. Sarah, you're on with Jon and Jim.
Hi, Jon and Jim. I watch you guys all the time.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
I'm I'm a silent watcher, but it's just like really sad because I'm actually crying.
Don't
And
cry.
it's just sad because now like Dodger fans are going to be even more annoying than they usually are, and I just hate them. And I mean I have no words. It's just it sucks, and I just feel really bad for Darvish because he even in the last game he was the only one who actually did something. Yeah. Everyone went scoreless for 24 innings. So I just feel really bad for Darvish, and I mean just like fans of San Diego sports, we deserve better. I feel like I don't know, like these Seidler bros need to leave. Like they just have to get away.
Thanks for the call, Sarah. Don't cry. Please, this is what I want you to do, Sarah. I want you to just not go on social media. Don't even subject yourself to it, because Dodger fans are going to do another lap around the Padres today for landing Roki, and it's just not worth it. Like it's just not worth it. Don't go on social media. Probably delete the app. Like just don't even bother, because they're not worth your time.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, I get it from a Dodger fan perspective. I get it today. Like I'd be circling around, pumping out my chest today too if this was the situation that the Padres were in. I mean, imagine the reverse. The reverse is the Dodgers don't score for 24 innings. The reverse is the Padres land Roki.
You're never letting them.
You'll never hear the end of it. It's like what's fair is fair, and it sucks to be on this side of it. And it's not Padres fans' fault that when the season mattered the most, the Padres went into a shell of themselves for 24 consecutive innings. And it's not Padres fans' faults that this organization has been silent all offseason, completely silent all offseason. And who knows when that ends? Who knows when that ends?
I'm anxious to read what Kevin wrote here, because
I read it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. There's nothing in it.
Okay. It's just the Padres overwhelming. The Padres underwhelming offseason reached another level of disappointment on Friday. Yeah, it did. It really did. It reached the level of disappointment where you're sitting there and, what do we do all the time? We always think of scenarios on how to make this team better. Like, okay, if they trade this player, if they trade for this player, or if they sign this player, if they get Roki, right? I'm really hard pressed to find that path that I talked about yesterday that works out. Like the two paths of the fork in the road I was talking about. One path is doomsday scenario. You lose out Roki. You don't re-sign Michael King. You go to arbitration with him. You don't re-sign Jurickson Profar. You go to spring training with a bunch of, non-roster minor league invites, and then you just go from there. Or the other path is you either land Roki or you get him or you don't, but you re-sign Profar, you re-sign Michael King, you make a trade or two, and you can say that, yeah, we lost out on Roki and it sucks, but at least we retooled some pieces that we desperately needed to have on this team.
Roki on Instagram called it a very difficult decision, but I will do my best to make it the right decision when I look back after my baseball career. Roki Sasaki to the Dodgers. He announced, of course. You can call us 877-767-4760. All the narratives. We can't have nice things. The rich get richer, whatever you want to say. I mean, we want to hear from you. So a number of you have been very patient on the phones. Again, 877-767-4760. Let's start with line one. And Richard, thanks for the patience. And you're on with Jon and Jim.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. It's Richard from Springfield, Missouri. Yeah, I'm not tickled happy about this whole entire signing. I think the kid was pulling our string and saying, oh, yeah, you guys have an opportunity to sign me. And the entire time it was Dodgers, Dodgers, Dodgers. It sucks. Like, why do that to us? Like, knowing that we're wanting a championship, we wanting, you to be a part of this, and he was just pulling our strings the entire time. It's frustrating when you have an athlete that knows that they have the ability to do this, and we just kind of milk it. You know what I'm saying? It just kind of sucks. But I kind of knew that as soon as the Dodgers were on the board, it was going to be a Dodgers all the way. They've been signing people left and right with basically, I call it dirty money, because eventually it's going to come back and bite them in the ass. But we're looking at 8 to 10 years of, Dodger success, and it's going to be hard for us to even sign anybody when, like, let's say, for an example, I don't know, some high dollar veteran that we have an opportunity to go and sign, and Dodgers are just going to sweep out of nowhere and say, "Oh, we'll sign you for X amount of dollars," and we just beat out the Padres again. And it's like, dang it. Why?
Richard, we appreciate you. No, I mean, I get the frustration. I mean, some of it, I don't disagree with the idea that it's like he just had us on a string and always knew that this was the end result. The Lucy football analogy. Like Charlie thinks he's going to kick the football. Lucy always pulls it away. Like, I get that. I feel that frustration.
I feel it too, but I also want to remind people this had nothing to do with money. Nothing. So well,
we say that, maybe not for the player, but like one franchise has money to spend to win over and over and over again.
I'm talking about individually for Roki.
Yeah, but that's
this is about money.
But that's not the only. No, it's not about money for him. It's about the ability for the organization to sustain success. What does that take? Money.
I also think this, again, his number one priority was where can he go to be developed the best.
I thought that was here.
I thought so too.
That was the pitch.
Well, it was the pitch everywhere, John.
So, but okay, so that was ultimately the difference. The Dodgers do that much better than these other teams.
Well, it's easy to talk to one of your best friends and ask him about his experience with the Dodgers.
But what part of development does Yamamoto know about the Dodgers?
What do you mean?
He's been there for a year. He was 25 when he got there. He had pitched professionally for 7 years.
Yeah.
What does he know about being developed?
And Tyler Glass now had the same pitch. Like, dude, if you want to go somewhere that's going to give you all the advanced analytics,
yeah,
and
but that's not development.
Well, it has a big part to do with it.
That's
John.
not. Now we're saying now it's not development. Now it's now analytics. That's moving the goalposts. Glass now got there as a veteran. Yamamoto got there as a veteran. That should not be the pitch for this guy's. He's not a finished product. He has to be developed.
I do think Yamamoto grew through the year, though. I mean, he got
He
shelled.
made 18 starts as a 26-year-old, though. I mean, it's
He
not
had
like
3
he was.
ERA.
And he was terrible to start the year in Korea, and then had that excellent game against the Yankees, and then was great.
He was great. But I'm saying he was developed by the Dodgers. That's the difference. That Yamamoto was developed by the Dodgers in his 6-month stint last year. I don't see it like that.
Dodgers aren't just being like, "Hey, Yamamoto, go pitch." Like, they're doing things to help him get better.
Yeah, well, obviously, but all the teams are. All of them.
But it was deemed by Roki that the Dodgers were the best at it of the teams that he spoke with.
I think it's more the sense that Preller couldn't get the sales job done versus the fact that you could have said you get a chance to go beat these guys every single year and be the number one star on this Padre team outside of Fernando Tatis and maybe Jackson Merrill. But Andrew Friedman's pitch job was easy. Do you want to go win a ring? He just showed that.
What if it had nothing to do with development and he wanted to play with Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto in LA?
I bet you that had a big factor to do as well.
Maybe that was more of it.
Yeah. So again, it from the beginning, it was going to be tough to land him. I do think that they got a fair shot, but I also think while they were on their date, Yamamoto in the back of his mind was still thinking about the Dodgers.
Yeah, probably. I agree. Now with the benefit of hindsight.
And his meeting with the Padres and the Blue Jays probably was what he needed to make sure that his decision about the Dodgers was what he personally thought was best for himself.
Let's go back to the phones. 877-767-4760. Ahmed on line 5. You're on with Jon and Jim. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, guys. Just calling in, providing a bit of a Toronto Blue Jays fan perspective. Obviously a tough one. I'm starting to get really frustrated with the game and maybe Rob Manfred because the Blue Jays can't give money away. I know this wasn't a money play for Roki, but they freed up some international cap space earlier today with the Straw deal with Cleveland. They could pay him a little bit more. It sounds like we're close on every single player, but we just don't land the big fish. And honestly, I don't know if we'll ever find the reason as to why Sasaki chose the Dodgers, but it felt like they were the front runners through and through, and it's just another tough day. I just don't know what we're going to do, who we're going to sign. It's just rough. I hope that the league can do something about it just for competitive balance reasons. My childhood was ruined by, the evil umpire and the Yankees and the Red Sox and their arms race going up. And this probably feels the same way in San Diego. Thanks for calling.
It's a good call. I mean, the one thing I would say, there are some similarities. The Blue Jays have tried to win. The
Hope you
Padres
keep Vladdy, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, the difference being, though, like the Blue Jays can always hang their hat on, you won back-to-back World Series. Yeah, it was a generation ago. Padres haven't. Like, you know what I mean? Yes, as the game changes and evolves, as it looks like a franchise like Toronto, it's hard to keep up in the AL East. Like, you won twice in the 90s. Again, it's a long time ago. I get it. Understandable. You're a Niners fan. It's a long time since they've won. But the difference between the Padres and the Blue Jays, the difference between the Chargers and the Niners is at the end result. Like, some of these franchises at the end of the day have rings. Like, you could say whatever you want about the Marlins. At the end of the day, they got 2 rings. You know, and I get it. It's frustrating for all, but it's really frustrating here because isn't the whole point here to win one?
And what makes this even tougher is that all 3 teams, I know you're going to push back on this, all 3 teams had a fair shot at Roki from a standpoint of there was no one team that had more money than the other. Now the Blue Jays end up, did have more money, but I mean, we're talking about just like millions of dollars, not hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Each team got to meet with Roki. Each team got to pitch, what their whole entire plan was for Roki. It came down to who had the better pitch. And it's hard to beat the Dodgers when, they have all the resources. They have the World Series now. They have the best player in the sport. They have one of his really good friends in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They have cornered the Japanese market. And it's really hard to turn that down. Really hard.
And Jim, I think to your point there, like there was also the thing that why I think Preller didn't get it done was there was a detriment to that. You needed that endorsement money because he couldn't sign a $325 million contract like Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
LA's going to give you that.
Yeah, but Ohtani's going to get the first crack. Then Yamamoto's going to get the second.
Right.
Outside of diehard baseball fans, they don't know who Roki Sasaki is. So the Padres could have sold that you were going to get endorsement money. No, San Diego's not LA in terms of the market size, but you could have got some endorsement money. And
I already see it now. I'm envisioning a national commercial with like either New Balance or whatever.
With all 3 of them.
And all 3 of them are going to be in it. And it is just going to suck because it's not like these guys are bad players. You got the best player in the sport. You got a really good pitcher in Yamamoto, could become a great. And you got the same thing with Roki.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that all teams didn't have a fair shot to land them, but I'm not saying they did either. Until I hear more about the recruitment process. Again, I'm not saying that they didn't, but I'm not saying that they did. And some of it to me feels a little bit like what went on with super teams in the NBA. You don't really know the way it transpires, but it's very easy for this process to play out via text.
Like when LeBron went to Miami with Bosch and D-Wade.
And there was no collusion, according to the league. There's no collusion in those determinations.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there is here, but I'm just saying, how do we know that everything was above board? I'm not saying that it wasn't. But how do we know? Old friend Jim Bowden, multiple-time general manager in Major League Baseball, has chimed in. Now, neither of us have heard this fully, but he has commented on the Dodgers landing Sasaki.
Interesting.
And how other teams feel about this maybe being like a pre-cut deal or like like this was a handshake deal all along.
Which is what like the report was early on in this process, which was quickly shut down by his agent, Joel Wolf, who, let me remind you, also said that Sasaki would be best fit and probably most likely would go to a place with a small market to have a soft landing. Instead, he goes to LA.
So, okay, let's listen to this together. Jim Bowden apparently thinks multiple teams will ask Major League Baseball to investigate Roki Sasaki signing with the Dodgers. Let's listen.
I think you're going to find that there's going to be multiple teams that are going to ask the commissioner's office to investigate this particular signing, because I can tell you there were several front offices that believed there was a pre-cut deal between the Los Angeles Dodgers and Roki Sasaki before this process started and before the window came where you're allowed to negotiate with the player. This was, of course, denied by his camp. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But, it was denied to such an extent that it makes you scratch your head a little bit. And what I mean by that is, we were told that, probably a small market would make sense because of the trouble he had with the media over in Japan. We were told that endorsements played a big role. But, Los Angeles really wouldn't work because you'd be in the shadow of Ohtani and Yamamoto. I mean, there were all these reasons to kind of defend on why there wasn't a pre-cut deal, which works as long as you don't end up signing with the Dodgers. But look, this ended up exactly where almost every front office told me he was going to end up. They all thought it was a done deal before the process started. And so, yeah, I'm sitting here at the end kind of scratching my head and then really believing that this will be investigated by the commissioner's office at some point.
John's like clapping.
Yeah. Give me a Chris Paul, man.
Give me Chris Paul.
Step in, dude.
What the hell's going on here?
But again, I think it's a fair opinion. I don't know if it's going to be investigated. I'm not a former GM, but I think it's a fair opinion that he always knew his destination, and the whole process of sorting teams was all done to provide cover for where he ultimately wanted to land. I think that's a fair opinion that we actually often shared together when we said, if he ends up with the Dodgers, are we going to just say this was a sham all along?
It's like shocker.
Yeah, exactly. Now, again, I'm not saying that that's what played out, but I'm also saying I don't know if it hasn't played out that way.
Yeah, I would be curious to hear like lie detector test, what the Padres truly feel about this. Do they do the Toronto Blue Jays?
Right.
Like do they feel the same way that what Jim Bowden is saying there? Or do they feel like, no, we just lost out type of thing?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the fact that Preller, they waited so long is that knowing that it was an international signing bonus, this wasn't cutting into your money to go sign MLB free agents. They built their whole free agency around signing Sasaki. So it hurts even more for San Diego that he's not coming.
Well, they're also going to be able to sign some players during this international period. They're not going to be SOL. But what I will go hard on, is when everybody heard Joel Wolf at his like State of the Union press conference, bro, everything you said is BS. Everything you said is BS. Small market. He doesn't like, he really was hurt by the Japanese media. So, to go somewhere where it's easier for him is going to be best. Like, bro, everything you said in that press conference at the winter meetings is looking awful right now.
Yeah. So doesn't that kind of back up what Bowden is saying and how others are feeling?
Probably.
Well, why were you saying that if that in fact wasn't the case? By the way, Roki Sasaki will get $6.5 million. That's the exact amount. He will get $6.5 million from the Dodgers for his 6 years, or $1.09 million per year, but $6.5 million for, again, Roki Sasaki to the Dodgers. That is official. He announced it on Instagram. If you want to weigh in, 877-767-4760. Let's go to John, who's been very patient. Again, a lot of you have been very patient. We appreciate it. So call in if you want to weigh in or vent. 877-767-4760. John, thanks for calling in. You're on with Jon and Jim.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks, Jon and Jim, for giving us a space to chat about this. I want to go in a little bit of a different direction. Maybe somebody mentioned this. I just popped in the car after work. But, the thing that seems to separate us from the Dodgers and why it seems like such an attractive spot is because of their revenue sources. And, we sell out Petco. I heard all the season tickets are already sold for the coming year. We've got great merchandise sales and concessions and all of that. But this daggum TV deal and our limited revenues from the ridiculous challenges we've had with the television deal in San Diego seems like that's what separates us from Los Angeles. They just got this money-making machine with their TV deal. They can sign a ton of great players. And then when somebody looks at all of that and says, man, I want to get into that space where they've got like an all-star team because they can just shell out the big bucks for that. So what's the deal with San Diego's television deal and the revenue sources that we could tap into over the long haul that gives us the opportunity to make this the place that everybody wants to come?
Thank you, John.
You guys, okay?
I appreciate the call. The deal with the Padres TV deals, it doesn't exist. And
they don't have one.
And it's a huge hindrance.
Huge disadvantage.
And we've talked about it. This has happened even when Peter was living. I think the last year they were running into these obstacles. The Padres get essentially nothing, and the Dodgers get over $200 million per year in TV revenue. That's a big discrepancy.
This is the biggest problem with baseball, in my opinion, is that you have teams getting so much revenue from local television contracts that it creates a disadvantage in your sport. You don't get that in football. You don't get that in basketball. You don't get that in the NHL. Right. You get an even revenue split. And in baseball, for whatever reason, the sport has decided that, one, we're never going to have a salary cap, and two, we're going to have teams have the rich and the poor. And the teams that are rich are going to have all the advantages, and the teams that are the poor teams, well, you're SOL.
So the Dodgers TV deal is $334 million per year for 25 consecutive years. It covers their entire payroll, even their payroll. $334 million. The Padres at one point was $60 million when it was Fox Sports and Bally. And then they went to MLB.TV. We have no idea what they're getting. They might be getting $6 million. Compare a $6 million TV deal to $334 million. And that's hard to compete with.
I think from a personal standpoint, John, great for me, because now this weekend, I don't have to worry about this stupid thing anymore.
True.
I was fully prepared
for a Saturday,
for tomorrow morning between 8:30 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. this to drop and all hell break loose. And then me not be able to focus on anything but freaking Roki Sasaki to the Dodgers.
Are you changing your tune? Because I see your quote tweeting Jim Bowden, who says that
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting.
Several front offices believe there was a pre-cut deal between the Dodgers and Sasaki. Jim Bowden, former Major League Baseball general manager.
I think it's interesting because we know Jim is tied in, and he has front offices telling him this, or he's not going to be saying this. I still would lean towards that. Yes, the Dodgers were Roki's first choice, but he wanted to make sure he did his due diligence and saw every team and gave every team a fair shot before, circling back to the Dodgers, which was what happened. He had the Dodgers as his last visit to firmly cement that his, mindset from the beginning, as they're the favorite, was the right decision.
This system is ripe for this possibility of other teams crying wolf or saying it's a corrupt system. In the NBA, you don't say, hey, Luka, pick your team. There's a process that plays out internationally. You end up getting drafted. For whatever reason with Major League Baseball, it used to be just the biggest check. The Padres with their class, maybe 2016 with Adrian Morejon, whatever year it was. You could write the biggest check. Then Major League Baseball got rid of that. They said everyone's on the same system. You can only use $6, $8, $10 million per team. That'll get rid of any type of corruption, any type of collusion. But it doesn't, because essentially what baseball is saying, he's not Yamamoto. He's not a free agent. He's a youngster. He's a prospect. Okay? So if he's a prospect, why are the players that are outside of the States not a part of a draft like they are in every other professional sport in the world? I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
Support the teams that want to win, winning to a greater degree. They're asking for these problems. This system is created to be problematic. Tell me I'm wrong. It's a bad system. And I'm not just saying that losing out. It sounds like I am. Mm-hmm. And I'd be all for it if the Padres landed them. But tell me I'm wrong when in other sports, international players are put into a draft, and then in baseball, you know what? You're international, and you would otherwise be in a draft if you were born in America, but pick your team. Explain.
You're right. I agree with that. That is a part of your sport, baseball, that once again, you've dropped the ball. No pun intended.
They've tried to clean this up, and they can't get rid of it.
They've even tried because they put a cap on the number.
It still hasn't.
And in the NBA, to your point, John, like if you draft a guy, you've seen this with high upside guys. They do it in the late end of the first round, maybe second.
They just stash them away.
Right. They stash them away, but there's a shot they could go, yeah, I'm just playing in Europe. So you kind of just got screwed out of a pick. Yeah. So there's kind of a risk there. There's no real risk in baseball. You just, you sign the guy.
Look, I hate the Dodgers more than any team in sports. I that's a big reason why, like, today sucks, But again, what sucks the most is nothing can be done to fix it at this moment in time. You are just little brother, bro. Like nothing we can do.
Right.
Nothing the Padres can do, the Blue Jays, whatever other team out there wants to try to either spend big money or recruit players or sign players internationally that are highly, sought after, you are going up against juggernauts, and 99.9% of the time you are going to lose. When you try to get Juan Soto, you better bring $1 billion to the table or you're not getting him.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to land international superstars like Roki Sasaki, you better be in a market with a $300 million TV deal and you're spending money every single offseason, or you're probably not going to get him.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Ohtani. Ohtani was always going to go to the Dodgers. Sasaki feels like, always was going to go to the Dodgers. Yamamoto, always going to the Dodgers. They have the World Baseball Classic winning team from Japan on their roster.
Yeah, it's a good point. No, you make here two things here. The paper transactions that we obsess over in sports aren't necessarily what happens on field. So you have to remember that. I mean, you can end up with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, as they did a year ago. There were highs and lows. There were moments in there where he didn't pitch well early in the year. He was then hurt, and then he was absolutely impactful for them on the way to the World Series. I'm just saying, we don't know what this Roki signing means in the short term. We said that with the Padres. We don't know what it means. And just because you have Roki, I go back to a year ago. The Dodgers spending prowess has nothing to do with the Padres not showing up in games 4 and 5.
None.
That was on the Padres, and that was not on ownership or the Seidler brothers or Shiel Seidler or AJ Preller that's on that team and that coaching staff to some extent. It's on the team. When they needed to perform, they weren't beaten by a payroll. They didn't get steamrolled by a payroll, by development, by analytics. That is not the reason they lost to the Dodgers. They got small in the biggest moments. That's what happened. That's what happened. We watched it. They could not have been any tighter in game 5 than they were. And that's a shame.
And they panicked and threw Cease out there on short rest. Would they have done that with another team? If they were playing someone else? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like it was there for the taking is my point. Despite their spending prowess, despite $325 million for Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Like it was there for the taking and they didn't take it. That's on them.
I'm going to end your poll. Pause.
Oh, yeah. Where do you think?
It says, do you think the Padres are out on Sasaki?
It was from earlier.
I know it was, but
I'll put
out.
up a new poll.